Hello, today we are going to be making tiramisu. Tiramisu is actually one of my wife's favorite desserts. I personally don't normally eat it because of my heart condition. I can't have coffee, and this is the first time I think I'll have eaten tiramisu since I was diagnosed. So the first thing we're going to add is it's called for a cup and a half of heavy whipping cream, but I just went ahead and upped it to 400 milliliters just to kind of make it easier for the conversions. This is added into a mixing bowl with one third of a cup of sugar, which ended up being up around 75 milliliters. Then we add in some vanilla extract. This is a tablespoon of vanilla extract. It's around 5 milliliters. Sorry, I meant a teaspoon of vanilla extract. A tablespoon would be quite vanilla-y, actually. A little extra in there from a drip. That's okay. I like vanilla. And then this is whipped with a mixer until it is until its stiff peaks. I'll go ahead and run the mixer real quick to show that I'm mixing it, and then I'll pause the video so that way you don't have to suffer through listening to a hand mixer for the entire time. As you can see, the whipping cream is starting to thicken up pretty good. I think now we're going to add in the marzipan. Alright, so now we add in the marzipan, which is 8 ounces. It says to use this whole container. On the container, it says that it is 226 grams. So this gets folded in, which to me, folding was, I always just kind of considered just to be a fancy way of saying to just mix it in by hand. I know there's a bit more to it where you're kind of in the way that you're mixing it, but you know, you're just still kind of mostly just mixing it in. And you want to make sure you get the marzipan mixed in really good. It might be a little harder to do because the cream's all whipped up and then the marzipan's kind of thick, so it'd be probably be kind of hard to get the marzipan to mix in with the whipped cream. And then of course, while you're doing this, you're gonna put your coffee and liquor together. I left the liquor out. Unfortunately, because of my heart condition, I take quite a bit of medications, and pretty much all of them say do not take with alcohol. So alcohol will be excluded from this recipe. According to the recipe, the alcohol is optional anyways. And I would describe the taste of what the alcohols would taste like, but I never really drank alcohol before my heart condition, and I definitely haven't since then. So I can't actually tell you personally what alcohol really tastes like because I really haven't had it. However, the other ingredient that you mix in there is espresso, which is 300 milliliters of espresso. This is decaf espresso. I had to go over to Starbucks and get them to make it for me. I could have got a bag of it and made it at home, but it was a lot easier just to have them make it and put it in a cup, and then I came home and put it in the fridge because you let it chill before you start dipping your lady fingers into it. I actually liked coffee quite a bit before my health kind of went downhill. I used to drink a lot of it, and I do like to taste the coffee quite a bit. Coffee always kind of has like a bit of a burnt kind of savory taste to me, and I always really like that. And I like sweet and savory flavors, so I typically end up adding a lot of cream to it, and I add sugar to it. But unfortunately, I can't really do any of that anymore. I could drink coffee just for a taste and get decaf coffee, but I don't know. It just kind of seems pointless to drink decaf coffee. Like, I feel like you're kind of defeating the whole purpose of coffee at that point. For the coffee, obviously, it calls for espresso, just straight espresso. Obviously, you can substitute with decaf espresso. I imagine you could probably, if you don't like espresso, because espresso can tend to be pretty strong, you could substitute with just the flavor of coffee that you enjoy. So if you enjoy like Folgers or some other type of coffee, you could totally do that. Like, I imagine a French roast would probably taste pretty decent. However, my wife's pretty picky, so I do went with the espresso because for her, she's gonna want it to taste like you would when you get it from a store. So I'm trying to keep it as close to as it would be in a store. All right, so that's all been folded in. So now we're going to put the ladyfingers in. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the ladyfingers and we're going to dip them into the espresso we're not going to get them soaked. We're just going to kind of get them wet on each side, and then there's going to be a layer on the bottom. Then we're going to take half of the marzipan whipped cream mixed, and then we're going to spread that over that layer, and then we're going to do one more layer of ladyfingers, and then the rest of the mixture will go on top of that. And for the ladyfingers, you probably could substitute them with any other type of kind of biscuit type thing. I don't think that there's anything particularly special about the ladyfingers. I think you probably could substitute them for any type of shortbread would be a good idea. It's going to have a similar kind of flavor to it. I think you'd be perfectly fine with that. The heavy whipping cream, I think you do need a type of whipping cream. You probably could use milk and get a similar result. It'd probably be a bit more runny, so you might have to whip it longer. You probably could use just regular whipping cream. Probably the same thing. You would have to whip it longer. I think you probably wouldn't get as thick of a mixture. Like, this is a fairly thick mixture even before adding the cheese in there. I think that's a pretty thick mixture. I don't think that others would work particularly well, but any type of like milk product probably would work okay if you were in a pinch. It's going to have that similar kind of flavor as milk would. Sugar would be kind of a hard one to replace also, because you're looking for that sweet flavor. You could probably use, you're trying to make sure that you're getting that extra bit of sweet flavor, so I think that you could use a sugar substitute like stevia or something like that. I think that would probably work out pretty well as well. Vanilla extract, if you don't like vanilla, you can replace it with another type of flavor you would like. I guess if you wanted kind of a more chocolatey flavor, you could put some kind of chocolate syrup in there. That would be kind of interesting instead of the pure vanilla extract. There's a lot of people who don't like vanilla flavor, so I could see replacing it with some type of ever flavoring additive that just kind of adds a kind of like just some kind of different taste, I guess is a good way to do it. It's not so much like you're trying to replace the vanilla extract with a similar flavor, because if you're leaving the vanilla out, it's probably because you don't like the vanilla. So I would replace it with a flavor that you do like. Obviously, the cocoa powder which will go on top afterwards, is a topping that it's a topping. So if you don't like chocolate, you could replace it with something else that you want. You could put coconut on top. You could put fruit on top. Fruit would be pretty interesting, like raspberries or something like that. I think most of the replacements I would suggest aren't like so much looking for similar flavors, so much as it's just if you don't like that flavor, you replace it with another flavor. And that's kind of a good thing about desserts, is a lot of desserts, because this doesn't have to be baked, because it's just a cool dish, because it's going to be chilled after this, so you don't have to bake it at all. There's no heat required for this. It just gets chilled to kind of solidify everything together, because that way the ladyfingers will kind of solidify into the rest of this. So all kind of join together. That's one thing about desserts like that, is it's more about mixing in flavors. It's not so much about like this ingredient has to go in there so it bakes properly. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and do the ladyfingers. Like I said, we're just gonna dip them in. We're not gonna soak them. The ladyfingers are actually pretty hard out of the package. It was actually really hard to find ladyfingers in Tyler. I was surprised to find out. I had to go to Sprouts and get them, but they're pretty hard. But when you put them in the coffee, they soak it up really good. And as you can see, they're already getting very soft. So they're already softening up really good. I was actually kind of concerned when I picked up the package that they were going to stay pretty hard for a little bit, and I was really concerned that was going to be a problem. Might need a bigger bowl to do this. I was really concerned that they were going to be too hard, but I think it'll be fine. So we're just doing one layer of the ladyfingers down here. I think we are going to probably need a bigger bowl, or at the very least a better way of doing this, because we're going to end up with just soggy ends and nothing really on the inside. This is pretty interesting, and I've really enjoyed this class quite a bit. It's been kind of hard to keep up. I had a lot of health issues at the beginning of the semester, so it's been kind of hard to keep up. But I always liked cooking. I grew up cooking a lot. My mother was really big on that it was important to learn how to be self-sufficient. So that was one of the first things she taught me, was how to cook, along with how to do my own laundry. She always said that it was better to learn how to do these things yourself and not have to rely on other people doing for you. And I've always had a love for cooking. It was been kind of difficult to cook this semester. I had some major issues and was in the hospital a lot, so it was kind of hard to get into the kitchen and do things. But now I've gotten back into it, and I've been enjoying it quite a bit. So it's been nice to take this class. It's helped me get out of the bed and into the kitchen, because I mean, if I want to pass the class, I have to do the stuff. I'm actually going to break this lady finger in half so I can fit it in here a little bit better. So it's nice to be forced to have to do stuff every once in a while, so you don't just sit around all day. But like I said, I've really enjoyed this class quite a bit. Now, how this dish would complement the other dishes in my group project. Unfortunately, my group was not very communicative with me. The only thing I was able to find out was that the theme was Italian. So I don't quite know what else they would make, but I can assume what they would make. I'm assuming that there's some type of spaghetti. I know that breadsticks were mentioned at some point as in something I was supposed to make. So I think breadsticks might have been something else that somebody made, but I'm not 100% sure. However, I'm going off what I know about most Italian food is that there's typically a lot of savory flavors in Italian food, and I am a massive fan of the sweet and savory flavors. So adding a sweet dish like this is, I mean, it's a win for me because I sweet and savory. If I'm going to eat pasta or breadsticks or some type of other Italian dish, considering they're normally pretty heavy and savory and have a real strong kind of umami flavors to them, I'm going to want something kind of sweet to finish it off. And what better way than with this essentially a coffee cake? So I think that this is a really good complementary dish to any like kind of savory meal, and I would say particularly a heavy meal. I don't know why I would say that like scientifically, but I feel like if I eat a heavy meal, I'd want this, and maybe it's because of the whipped cream, the whipping of it, so it feels kind of like a lighter dish. So I think that because it feels like a lighter dish, if you ate a heavy meal, you don't want like a heavy dessert. You want kind of something kind of lighter. And obviously the coffee is kind of a very Italian thing. They like their coffee over there. My father spent a lot of time in Italy, and he's talked before about how Italians really like the coffee, drink coffee a lot. So I assume that this part of the reason why it's pretty popular is a lot of cream. A lot of cream dishes in Italy, a lot of sauces, so it kind of makes sense that they would do something like this. Oh, for the marzipan, I didn't say anything about the marzipan, what I would replace it with. Marzipan, I don't really know what I would replace marzipan with. I would say you probably could replace it with a type of cream cheese, because you're still looking for that kind of cheesy kind of flavor, but you're wanting something that has that similar texture so it'll blend well. Like, you obviously wouldn't want to use like a hard cheese. You would want something kind of more of a cream cheese to still kind of get that cheese flavor. Something kind of creamy would be a good thing to do. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and do these next layers, and I'll pause the video, and then we'll show what this looks like after I'm done. Alright, so I finished putting all the stuff on there. I've let it chill for a little bit, because I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to have enough time to film this later. Also, I've had issues with combining multiple videos and uploading them. So let it chill for a little bit. So it's not it's been about an hour or so. It's not been the 3 hours that it's supposed to be in there, but I'm going to go ahead and try it. I ended up using about half the package of the ladyfinger, so that ended up being about 396 grams for the ladyfingers. But I'm going to go ahead and try this. Obviously I can't try a lot of it because I can't have a lot of sugar. So I'm going to try it and see how it tastes. I'm going to say that it's probably going to have a pretty savory texture to it, because it's a lot of whipped cream. So it's going to be very sweet, but it's going to be kind of fatty. So it's going to have a pretty good savory texture to it. And obviously it's going to have the coffee. So I'm going to go ahead and try it. I'll steal one of my kiddos' forks here. There's not a lot of ladyfinger in here, interestingly. So it's actually just mostly whipped cream. I think that if I were to change this recipe, I would add a lot more ladyfinger to it. So we're going to go ahead and try it. Okay, now I understand why you don't have a lot of ladyfingers to this. Them being dipped in that coffee, if I had more ladyfingers in here dipped in that coffee, the coffee flavor would be way too strong. So I totally understand why you don't put more ladyfingers in here. The coffee is very strong. I think I would have swapped out the espresso for a different type of coffee. I think I would have just used regular coffee instead of espresso, because espresso is very, very strong. It is very sweet. It has kind of a burn taste to it because of the coffee, and being espresso, it's very kind of burn tasting. It's very got a kind of an umami to it, which is interesting for a sweet dessert. And then the whipped cream is very, very savory. Honestly, I might just make whipped cream like this again just to eat, like on toppings of other things. It's very good. But I do like it. It tastes like I remember tiramisu tasting. Once again, like I said, I haven't had tiramisu in probably 5-6 years. It tastes about like how I remember it tasting, but I definitely think the coffee flavor is stronger in this than it is from when I bought it, when I tasted it before. And I think that it could also just be because I'm not used to coffee. But the coffee flavor is very, very strong. The ladyfingers, you can't really taste anything from the ladyfingers. They're more like a texture, like kind of to give it something besides just being like essentially whipped cream. So the ladyfingers are pretty much just adding texture. I can't taste anything from the ladyfingers. They're just literally just kind of a crunchier texture, which I think is a good thing to do. I think the other thing I could probably do to change it is maybe soaking like a layer of ladyfingers and maybe milk or the cream, and just to get them to soften up, and then having that like interspace it, I guess is a good way to put it. So I'd have like one with espresso, one with like cream, and then change it, and just make sure when I do the next layer, so that way like get an even flavoring, just reverse it, so that way on top of a coffee one there, on the layer above, on top of that is one that's soaked with cream, and that would cut down on the coffee for sure. But like I said, I've really enjoyed this class a lot. It has been very hard to film these videos with my health stuff. Some days I can't get up, so I typically am just kind of stuck in bed. But this has been a really good motivator for me to get out of the bed. And it's been fun to try new recipes. It's been fun to try some recipes I normally wouldn't try, and to find the substitutes that would work for me with my health issues and with my medications. It's been kind of fun to find things that are good substitutes that work with my conditions. And I think that's also encouraged me in my cooking in general to find alternatives to cooking things. And it's kind of broadened my selection, because for a long time, I always kind of felt like that I couldn't cook a lot of things because I couldn't eat it. And this class has shown me and taught me that there are ways to make things with similar flavors that work for me, and that's been a very appreciated thing. Anyways, this is tiramisu for the group project. Hope that it tastes good. It tastes better in a few more hours. Maybe the coffee flavor won't be quite a dream after I'll let it stick for a little bit longer. But like I said, I've had trouble with splicing the multiple videos together, so I'll try to get this all in one video. But this is about an hour after, so it tastes pretty good. We'll see how it does after 2 hours, but overall I do like it, and hopefully my wife will like it.